AEW Dynamite looking to follow up a pretty good show from Grand Slam, and I thought they did very well. I thought this was a really, really fun show from AEW. I loved the MJF Adam Page face-to-face to start things off. I thought both guys' motivations were clear. They made sense for their characters. MJF with the kind of constant need for fan validation playing into this really well. It was the classic MJF that I was hoping to see, was mainly the gist of this whole thing. Page feeling bad about what he had done to Christopher Daniels and having that turn him was well done as well. It is difficult to have a guy who, as MJF has said, put a syringe without consent through a man's mouth, the other side and out, and stomped him on a brick and those sorts of things, and lit his childhood house on fire. It's tough to then say, oh, by the way, he's the good guy now. But I think the wrestling fans were ready to cheer him anyway. They're ready to cheer for the guy against MJF, and this was a way to make it make sense. So it is a little bit quick of him being a arsonist psycho into being the good guy that we all love, but that's wrestling, baby. It's going to be a banger of a match, and I hope we get a few matches out of it. It gets MJF away from kind of the seniors division for a little bit. I would imagine there is going to be some kind of Jeff Jarrett tie-in to a lot of this, but we'll see. I was really, really happy with how they set this whole thing up. I think a lot of it made sense and it was very good storytelling, in my opinion. We finally get the good guys getting a moment in the championship picture as Cope gets a measure of revenge on Jon Moxley. I don't know why Cope needed to be the one to take the fall out in Australia, but he did. And now he comes back and it's like, you know what? I'm going to run through all of your guys, so it's just you and me one-on-one at Revolution. I think that is a way to get him some momentum back. I think that it is a way to get the good guys finally looking good in this whole thing. I do think that it eventually leads to Moxley beating him, but I think that this is just a way to get at least a little bit of momentum and at least a little bit of doubt in people's minds about where this storyline is potentially going. So it was good to see the good guys get some momentum finally. The Ricochet Prince Nana segment was perfection. Ricochet has embraced this new character, and he's really getting the most out of it. And Nana explained the robe very, very well, solidifying its importance. And then Ricochet's, okay, take it. Oh, it was so good. Oh, it was so good. At that point, you're fearing for Nana, you're hating Ricochet, all of these different things. Like, this is exactly what Ricochet needed, and showing that this new side of him for the first time ever is spectacular. So I thought that was great, and probably going to lead to another very good match with Swerve Strickland. Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong, they had a great match together. I thought they told a good story, built to a good finish. It wasn't the best match that these two guys have had, but it was still a fun one nonetheless. It leads with Orange Cassidy getting a win. He'll now face Takeshita for the International Championship at Revolution, at Dynamite, with the winner taking on Kenny Omega at Revolution. It does seem like a long way to get to Takeshita against Omega for the title, which there's a story for anyway, so I am kind of questioning why we needed to do this, but it gets a couple of your very good performers on television, and you don't just go right away to an obvious thing. And like we've kind of said before, that AEW, they have what are very predictable end dates in mind, and they do seem to sometimes try to take the scenic route to it, and they don't build up a whole lot of believability. They've at least built enough believability in this that you could see there being a triple threat match with Orange Cassidy, Takeshita, and Omega, and kind of build it that way. Part of it is for the joke, because I think the international champion and the continental champion coming together and forming the intercontinental title would be funny. But I do think when you see, like we talked a bit about it after Grand Slam, like Okada, who I don't recall being on this show, isn't really doing a whole lot right now and doesn't feel like the main event guy. But we had this face-off with him and Omega for Revolution. If Omega goes out and wins the international title and Okada is there with the continental, I think you can kind of fix the too many belts issues in AEW and also create a better hierarchy of those mid-card singles championships if Omega unifies a couple of them and then he's holding it for a little bit. And that gives you a gigantic match for All In. Omega, Okada, unifying some championships at All In out in Texas. So I kind of wonder what that's going to be. On the other side, I don't love how much of an afterthought Adam Cole is right now. Like, this guy came in as a huge star, obviously some injury issues, has come back, lot of comments on the internet about how my guy looked in his kind of returns here, but this is still one of the better characters that you have, and he has he is a background character for sure in everything right now in AEW. So it's how deep this talent roster is that guy kind of gets pushed back a little bit, but I do also think that it bit of a waste of money that you have all these big names making all this money and we can only utilize X amount of them so far. The hardcore match was what it was. It gets Hobbs a win. There were some big moves. There was a big table break. It was fine. Crowd seemed into it. It wasn't my cup of tea, and I don't hate the big plunder matches every now and then. It never felt like this one really got going, in my opinion, but it gets Hobbs a win, and hopefully it kind of puts an exclamation mark on this feud, and we can start to build him up a little bit more. Again, Opps against the Patriarchy was what it needed to be. Hook put on a good show. Christian was a weasel. Hopefully we can kind of move on a little bit. Now we get to the bad. And I think if you watched Dynamite or saw any of the clips online or any of the reaction online, you know where I'm going. The fuck was that Penelope Ford, Megan Bayne, Thunder Rosa thing that they did? Like, obviously someone missed a cue, because Thunder Rosa is just like out there and like kind of fake throwing a chair, but no one has their hands up, and so she doesn't want to just wallop these people. But so either someone missed the cue that they were supposed to grab the chair, or they were supposed to run out, or she was supposed to just threaten them and go check on someone quickly. But it came across so badly. And like I like Bayne. I love the direction of putting her with Penelope Ford. I think there's a lot there. And I think Thunder Rosa, there are some criticisms of her for sure, but I think it's an interesting character. And so having them all kind of together in the same universe, I think makes a lot of sense. But this was a really bad start to that whole thing. Positive on the women's side, you get Momo Watanabe challenging Mercedes Moné. That should be a whole lot of fun and just a very good wrestling match. It is weird that someone won a chance to challenge for a championship and they pick a secondary one, but it'll be a fun match and probably a good couple of weeks here building up to it. And then the Toni Storm promo was fantastic. She is so entertaining. It doesn't build to a whole lot, and then on Collision, Mariah May attacks her again, kind of escalating this feud one more time. But it was fantastic. It was entertaining. You don't need to have any idea what's going on in wrestling in general to watch that and be entertained by it. She is one of the best and one of one. She is timeless, Toni Storm.